You're live, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much, Sasha. Good evening. Welcome, members of council, members of our staff, members of the public. We are at Monday, January the 10th, 2022 council meeting. Council did meet in camera briefly for two small items, and then we're now meeting here at 5:30. So I want to welcome everybody to our first meeting for 2022. Happy New Year to those that I have not seen yet, and wish we have a very good year this year, and hope that it's a wonderful success for us all, and we try to keep serving our community well, as we're always doing. So council, our agenda does have for the first time has our land acknowledgement on it, and so it would be my honor to read the first land acknowledgement at the opening of a council meeting. I would like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Titatinati, the Wendat, and is the home of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of our intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships, and ask for guidance in all that we do. Again, we approved this land acknowledgement at our council meeting at the end of 2021, and it can be used at any time during council, and also be distributed to members of our boards. And so we look forward to people having the opportunity to use this if they choose. Thank you. So council, we are going to move to item number 2 in our agenda, which is actually the approval of the agenda. Item 1 was our closed session, which we already held. So at this time, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated January 10, 2022 as amended to include item 9.3, Collingwood General and Marine Hospital MRI support request. Mover and seconder on this motion, Deneen and Broderick. Deneen and Broderick. And is there any questions about the agenda? Again, we have added that one item that came in rather late on Friday afternoon. And so we've included it in the agenda, and I appreciate the clerk for doing everything she could to get it on the agenda so it's available for everyone. Seeing nothing further, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. The agenda is approved. Item 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Has anybody got any disclosures at this time in regards to content on the meeting? Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just again, the approval of the council minutes, the December 17th special council meeting. I was not in attendance of that meeting, so I will not be voting on the meeting minutes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Madam Clerk had acknowledged that. Mr. McKechnie, did you have something?
And same with me, Your Worship. I will not be voting as well because I did not attend that meeting either. So
fair enough. Okay. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. If there's anything else that comes up here in the meeting, council, please bring it forward and we'll deal with it right away. Council, item number 4 is our public participation. There were no submissions to the public participation portal on our website for this meeting. I do want to remind people that they do have the opportunity to do so up until Monday at 12 noon on the day of the Monday's council meeting to submit on the online public participation portal. Not to be confused with public meeting portals. Just want to be some clarity in that. Public meeting commentary is a different link than the public participation period link. So we want to make sure that they're delineated there. And so we did not receive any, so we can move on then, council, to item number 5, which is our deputations and presentations. In fact, we have 2 tonight that are both very interesting for us to listen to. Madam Clerk, could you join Julie Scarcella and Mike Vance with this meeting, please?
Thank you, Mayor Measures. Both Julie and Mike have been promoted into the meeting, and they're turning on their cameras right now.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and welcome. Hello, Julie.
Hello, Mr. Worship. Thank you for having us this evening, and to council. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So you have a presentation you'd like to deliver, and Mr. Vance, is he here with us as well?
Yes. Mike is calling in from British Columbia, and I'm calling from Clarksburg.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was muted.
okay. No problem, Mike. Glad to have you with us. There you
There
are.
you go. Thank you.
All right. All right. So who's, yes, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to ask Julie and Mike, would you like me to share your presentation slides for council to review as you speak through?
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. I was just going to get to that. I'm glad Sasha jumped in there. She's highly efficient and we really appreciate her for that. All right. So you have a slide presentation here, Julie. I will turn the meeting over to you then, and then council will be available to ask questions and have a discussion afterwards. Is that okay?
That's wonderful. Thank you. Yep.
Okay. You go right ahead.
Again, thank you for having us to participate in the deputation this evening. In this very, very snowy evening, I might say. There are two documents that we did provide council for today's purpose. Because we only have 10 minutes, we will not be going through the executive summary. That is a background document for questions. But for today's presentation, we have about 10 slides. So today we are here this evening to present to you an opportunity about addressing our regional issues on housing. And we are here today to share with you our vision of working together regionally and what might that look like. Next slide, please. So really for today's agenda and through the duration of the presentation, we're really looking at some desired outcomes of what we're proposing, who we are, some of the regional gaps that have been exposed by other volunteer groups and other initiatives underway in the region. And what I mean by the region, I pretty much mean South Georgian Bay, extending as far as Owen Sound. Some best practices to do with regional housing and who's done some great work to make regional housing work collaboratively, both with private sector, not-for-profits, as well as municipalities. And then looking at partnerships. Next slide, please. So really, as we're all well aware of our housing issues, on a personal note, I've lived here 30 years. And, my son is in that bucket. He's 25, he works in the trades, and he's really having a hard time. He's been looking for a rental house for him and his girlfriend for 2.5 years, and it's been tough. And then I also have family members that are seniors that live in the region, and they too are really struggling. And I think we're all well aware of how challenged the issue has come, especially even more so, I think, with the onset of COVID. So for today, we're really looking at addressing two major issues, both the housing solution, but also the issue addressing climate change. Some of the team and the working group that are supporting housing have a deep expertise in the green building sector and net zero, and also have a deep understanding in construction towards and moving the needle towards net zero, giving the opportunity for future housing that would be affordable. So we're really here to talk a little bit about both and look at solving some issues here to address both issues. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to work together collaboratively among all the municipalities at really honing down and sharing and onboarding the opportunity to develop policy together, resources and other tools that could really help drive a future efficient process, getting more housing in the ground. Next slide, please. So really today's purpose is to discuss a new organization that might assist in delivering housing regionally. Our goals really are to look at opportunities for collaboration and working together. We're well aware of all of the great work that's already been underway from other regional volunteers and other municipalities, working on housing task force. There's Collingwood, and there's also the town of Blue Mountains working on housing initiatives, as well as others. But we're really trying to look at a more regional approach and really to enable, 70% of our residents who live in the region to remain in the region. And really the objective is to collaborate that public and private sector supply chain, that opportunity of working together in a voice of a shared vision of what housing could look like regionally. Next slide, please.
Maybe a quick comment, Julie, is that that 70% number is one that a number of other resort communities have chosen, and it's one that we chose at Whistler over the past several decades, or 2 decades.
Thanks, Mike. So our outcomes today is a vision. You know, what would that look like if we were to, you know, come together and say, you know, what would regionally look like, you know, together? What does success look like? We are here to look at proposing a new entity, a new not-for-profit. It would be a development corporation that would have the liability and the mandates to work in collaboration with the regional municipalities for execution of housing. But it goes beyond that. And we need more than just execution of housing. We need an entity that can leverage the funding that is available to us by the federal government and look at pooling our resources. Time management is everything. Cost management is everything. It's about expediting a more efficient process to getting housing in the ground. So that means developing and pooling requirements. Each municipality is different within the region, but we are all talking about rural issues. And many of them are very similar. So, you know, some municipalities are undertaking official plan process that already have, you know, a deep discovery of understanding of what's needed for policy. But there's a lot of missed opportunities and other resources and templates that could include the planning process, but all their incentives for developers and builders. We just simply don't have all of that, and it's not available to all of us. And I think having a regional entity, you know, with a strong board that can help develop these solutions together and execute them together. And I think we can't do that without partnerships. We know that there's a number of developers in the region that want to go there. We know that there's builders very interested. So there's an opportunity here to look at partnerships and looking at what others have done for accountability. You know, we're not the first at developing something like this. Others have done it, and they've done it for a reason. The federal government doesn't have all the money in the world. They don't. And if we're going to leverage money together federally to leverage the development of resources as well as housing, we need to really take a look at that. Because, you know, as much as the federal government has announced billions to support housing, they are limited and they're capped, and even finding other financing opportunities for housing. So it's looking at, you know, opportunities of really, you know, each municipality working together on a shared vision with this potential new entity, as well as other partners. Next slide, please.
And just a quick comment also, those partnership agreements are signed by each respective council.
So the South Georgian Bay Housing Corporation initiative would seek to support solutions for sustainable housing, both rental and home ownership, as well as the technical consultancy. The technical consultancy will be made up with experts that would include planning, legal, real estate, developers, construction, developer managers, engineering, sustainability experts, as well as outreach and marketing. And that kind of board composition is what's really needed to really expedite a strong working board. What we have seen, and we do have an existing working board right now, other similar not-for-profits have a phenomenal profile of the technical expertise that brings such value to their own regions and municipalities. And in our working group right now is made up of 6. We started this initiative last January. I was part of the group with the South Georgian Bay Institute that also has been working really hard over the last year on the 7-part series. And I've been part of that whole process. And housing is part of that mandate, but it's really getting to action. And what does action really look like? Next slide, please. It's really looking at where are we now? What are our obstacles? Where are our issues? Do we have a regional needs assessment? Does every single municipality really know what they need in their backyard? What does that really look like? We have to protect land for the next 30 years. Without protecting the land now, we won't have housing projects. So it's looking at this vision of, what do we have now? What don't we have? And what could we do together to protect the land and look at regional coordination? Reduce the overlap of resources is critical. I can't enforce that enough. Before Christmas, I had an opportunity to speak to the London, Ontario Housing Corporation that developed their development corporation just shy of 2 years ago, and they're regional and they work with 6 municipalities. And it's incredible what they're delivering. And they're doing it together as a shared vision, and they're accessing resources and they're sharing that. And it's a wonderful example of, I know they're a bigger municipality, but there's coordination that's working and reducing the silos. Next slide, please. So what gaps are we really looking at? Access to funding. We have access to so much funding right now regionally, and we just simply aren't tapping into it. The National Housing Strategy has funding, not just for infrastructure, but for startup costs for not-for-profits. They have money for needs assessment. They have money to develop a regional strategy plan. They have money to help hiring people but you have to be a not-for-profit to leverage that. And even better, in partnership with the municipalities. That's what they want to see. They want to see that leverage opportunity. So it's really about pooling and seeing a long-term vision. It's driving efficiencies for housing for seniors, housing for the young families, housing for the missing middle. We all know that there's a big gap, both from, 20-year-olds all the way up to 80, and all the different types of housing. So it's delivering that types of housing and the types of housing that's needed within each of the municipalities. And having a new not-for-profit with a strong board, with strong mandates, mission, and vision means a strong operational board that can help write those funding applications, that can help leverage and hire local people to help execute. That's the other thing. You can only go so far in housing working as a volunteer group. Other not-for-profits have hired staff and they have grown. The organization in Ottawa, Canmore, Whistler, they've all grown over time, and they hire local to execute. And then there's obviously, most importantly, is the annual review and recognition and performance. Next slide, please. So why best practices? Great work is already out there. It really is. Another regional strategy is just south of us, the regional housing strategy for Mississauga, and they partnered with Brampton and Caledon. And again, they just focused on policy 3 years ago. That's where they started. Now they have incentives. They've done other stuff, but they started with some of the, challenging areas first, which was policy for them. And now they're moving into development incentives for developers and builders. But they're pooling that and they're sharing that information. And I think our journey so far has been a lot of listening, both, for me being in private sector and the working board, we simply have just done a lot of listening. Who's done what? What can we leverage? We don't have to start from scratch. And let's work in collaboration with some of these other best practices to help us leapfrog, get there. Next slide, please. So how do we really get there? I think the vision was, and the serendipity of it all was, look at all these other great not-for-profits that are leveraging, making it happen, working together. They're making the best use of federal and provincial funds. And can we lean on them as a startup? Can we work together with them? And are they willing to work with us? Absolutely. So we have that opportunity to work with other organizations that have walked this road already. And I think it's very important that we have a shared vision together on what housing is going to look like for the next 30 years. And centralizing this knowledge and these tools and sharing all of this information with us all. Next slide, please. And I think really next steps so far, we have done, oh, how many I think deputation number 4, is that right, Mike? I think we're on number 4. The town of Blue Mountains, Grey Highlands, Wasaga Beach, we have done deputations. We are doing all deputations, hopefully by the end of January. And so far the input has been, you know, the town of Blue Mountains council suggested and mayor suggested that our information go to the regional mayor's forum. That's this week, I think on the 14th, for discussion. It's on the agenda. And really our opportunity there was, you know, let's work together. Let's find a way of working through this opportunity, partnerships, and get on with it. We really need housing, and we need it fast, and we need to be smart about it. So this is why we're here today. So thank you all for your time, and we look forward to your questions. Mike, do you have anything to add there?
Maybe just a comment about Whistler, where housing is so expensive. Essentially, half the resident population live in restricted housing. That's deed restricted in perpetuity, as affordable and as dedicated to the workforce. But you know, it's 6,000 people in a population of 12,000 are, in order to stay in town, live in the community, we've been able to provide them with restricted housing.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for that. And thank you, Julie. Very good information and something for us to certainly to think about. My first comment would, before I go to council, would be that I always like to offer the opportunity to work with our neighboring municipalities. I find that as local government grows and expands and takes on more challenges, we do need to work with our neighbors on many issues. Housing is certainly one of them, but we do want to work with our neighbors on a lot of issues. And so we have been developing that sort of theme at the mayor CAO's conferences. So that's certainly something that, you know, is an overall objective, you know, from the mayor's office to the other mayor's offices. We are, you know, respectfully being cooperative with each other and trying to work with each other and be helpful. So that's a positive thing. How about I go to members of council? Anybody from council would have any questions or about the presentation? Yes, Tom, go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
Thank you. When you talked about regional needs assessment, are you working with, I haven't heard you reference specifically the Simcoe County. From our perspective, they certainly represent a good chunk of our region. Mm-hmm. And they do coordinate our needs, and they have set goals for attainable housing. Could you speak to that?
Thank you, Councillor, Mr. Patterson. We have not gone to all counties yet. Because we haven't officially formed as a not-for-profit. What we do know is that the counties do partner with not-for-profits for execution of housing. And we are aware that both Grey County, Bruce, and Simcoe have done their own needs assessment. For what I've been informed, it's a bit challenging to get the specifics with, you know, on the needs within each of the municipality. So not all the details are available through Simcoe, from what I've been told so far. So it's not that transparent. There's a lot of data. From what I had heard from Mark Shibanini from when they did their needs assessment for Collingwood, was that they had to hire someone to do their needs assessment and to access the data to get the relevance for Collingwood specifically. So there was some data, obviously, that they leveraged from the county, but they actually had to hire someone to really get to the details for the transparency of what their needs were. So like I said, we haven't incorporated yet And we don't want to incorporate this entity until we have some buy-in from the municipalities. So we haven't done the deep dive with all counties. I have done a deep dive with Grey County. And we have a pending meeting with Bruce, and then we'll circle back with Simcoe. So bit by bit, we're reaching out. We are.
Tom?
Just one other question, if I can ask. What does a municipal collaboration agreement look like in its first steps?
Mhm. Mike, I'll let you add to that because you've been through that process.
Well, we Julie referred to the partnership agreements, and they're actually an agreement with council, and they're signed by council. So each local government or participant in delivering housing is party to a housing agreement. So we have it essentially. It's a formal agreement that's ratified by council.
And what does it? What are the responsibilities under the agreement?
Sharing information, sharing resources, fairly general, but really the idea is that we're in it together. So we actually sign a document and to work together, share information, share resources.
And the funding?
Depending on the project, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So that depending on the project. So if we were a new not-for-profit, then we would leverage the CMHC seed fund to get our not-for-profit paid for, bylaws, governance, develop the business plan. You know, that's the background. As we're all well known. You know, when you're developing a not-for-profit, you have to do some of the early legwork for the foundation. So once you have the foundation, and then there is the sharing and the visioning with each of the municipality or all the municipalities, that's where we would be getting into the specifics of your needs. What kind of housing do you think you're already well aware of and that you need? And that's where we look at developing capital costs, you know, depending on the project, the land and the kind of project. So there's different funding tiers for different needs depending on the project. So there's startup costs for a new not-for-profit. There's new funding right now for developing policies and tools that we can share. There's funding to do a more deeper needs assessment. So again, I just know what's available for funding because we're actually applying for some of that as we speak right now. So it depends on the project. Sorry, that doesn't quite answer your question, but it depends on the project.
Mm-hmm. And one last one, if I can, just quickly.
Certainly, and then we'll go to others. Go ahead, Tom.
What kind of a direct or indirect relationship do you form with the municipality's planning department, development planning department?
Yeah, it's critical.
Very close, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Deneen, I saw your card. Is anybody else who want to jump in? Go ahead, Phyllis.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering what exactly you're looking for from us as a municipality at this time. We would normally go to Simcoe County, who is doing a really good job right now of looking after this sort of thing for us. And what region are you really hoping to cover? You're calling yourself the South Georgian Bay, and you're talking about Bruce, and you're talking about Grey Highlands and the town of the Blue Mountains. Wondering about the region you're planning on covering, and are you looking at starting up more than one nonprofit, or is it just one? Just a little bit of specifics would be nice, and why you aren't going through the county of Simcoe, what you're expecting from us.
So you have to keep in mind, the counties have their own mandates for social housing and affordable housing, as we're all aware, right? And they are delivering on housing. Are they delivering enough housing fast enough to meet the needs at the emergency state that we're at right now? I would have to say no. I would have to say no. So can we help them? expedite more housing. And that's what typically not-for-profits do. They prefer to work with not-for-profits on projects. So we are starting out as a not-for-profit development corporation. That is really honing in on development process, construction. There are different organizations out there, like Whistler has a development corporation and they have a housing authority. In other parts of Ontario, again, there's a development corporation or a housing authority. Well, we don't have units to manage right now. So there are other not-for-profits, another not-for-profit in time that could be incorporated to manage the units and the maintenance.
Yep.
So they're two different entities. Development is about development. Managing all of the rentals, managing the maintenance is a separate cup of tea, if that makes sense. And the region, I went as far as Owen Sound, Councillor Zanine, and the reason why is because one, I have colleagues that are on council there. I know the region of Bruce and smaller townships, and they're interested and they want the support. It's just that, we realized South Georgian Bay when when whomever coined the name years ago went as far as Meaford. But in all purposes, we really want to help as many small townships as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Was there other members of council had any questions for our presenters? All right. If I may, then I'll just ask one question. You talked about creating a shared vision, and I would put to you that it's a little problematic, as you said in one of your cards, that it's a very dynamic political environment with these the communities that you're referencing here, that they have different goals and objectives. They also have different focuses, referring to the resort communities here. Clearview Township is not really a resort community. I would tell you it's difficult to find a hotel in Clearview Township, and yet we would love to have a hotel in Clearview Township for people to come and stay. But we are still, I'm wondering about, how you are going to nurture something called a shared vision. I mean, we're working within the parameters of, as Councillor Patterson mentioned, the planning department, and with the Planning Act, we're working with our neighbors in the areas that we can work together. But certainly the shared vision question is one that stood out to me when I saw your presentation, Julie.
It's a very good question, Your Worship. It's understanding your needs and mapping out, this is an entity that's going to be here for a long time, right? We're not going anywhere. We're here to make successes, and we need to start small. What could be some small wins? We have to start small. So what does each municipality need? And that means having a conversation with staff. It really does. Some of the planning requirements, it could be environmental requirements, it could be other tools. I'll give you an example just to support that very good question you've asked me. I'll give you an example. We're writing a funding application right now for $500,000, which will be supported here. We actually partnered with another not-for-profit because we're not registered yet. And as part of that funding application, we reached out to 5 housing authorities south of us, one in Canmore. And they all asked for the same thing. They're all developing housing in concert with the municipalities. And we had a list of solutions. Number one that came up that they loved was the financial performance. Oh, you're going to be developing financial performance on what it would cost to do tiny homes that could be remote, that don't need servicing. You're going to be doing financial performance potentially for 4-story MERB buildings for affordable housing or seniors flats. So there's a suite of financial performance that this one grant, and we're doing other solutions, but that's one example. That's a real need that was expressed by housing providers that they didn't have internally, and the municipalities didn't have access to that, was the cost. What does it really cost? And what could that really look like? And when you're typically going out to a project to develop housing, you typically do hire a housing estimator for 20K. Well, do you need to keep spending that money on a consultant, high paying, when you can have access to your own suite of tools? That's one example of sharing critical information. Now, I know that's not planning and I know that's not policy, but that's financial. That's one example.
Okay, well, good luck with that. I mean, I'm hearing you.
Yeah.
I certainly engage with the mayors and CAOs conference, and I try to have a very good working relationship with all of our neighboring mayors.
Yeah.
And represent, they represent their community. I do my best to represent our community, and
Yeah.
I think that we do have a better understanding by just working together. But I can assure you the visions of each of our community are very different. I mean, it's quite obvious if you look at our strategic plans of our various communities, you'll see that they're not the same. But we do have common goals for sure, and there is enough commonality that we, this is something you could continue to explore. So
I don't think, Mr. Mayor, it has to be overarching. It has to be overarching, the shared
sure.
vision. Each one is going to have its own objectives and needs. We understand that.
Yeah.
But it is a shared vision for the next 30 years. What might that look like?
Yeah.
Thank
As
you.
Councillor Janine pointed out, we do have a good relationship with the County of Simcoe, and that work does continue there. And I know that the County of Simcoe, as a member of County Council, we have voted to support financial projects in Aurelia, in Barrie, in other areas. And so we have had some successes in this, housing development part of the responsibility. So that's good to hear. I find this is a very interesting conversation, and I think it's something that's certainly going to be coming up more and more. So I would ask you to keep us informed as you continue to go down this path, and let us know how you're doing and what input you would like to hear from the Township of Clearview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Just one last question, Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
if I could ask. We are aware that the forum with the mayors is coming up, I think this Friday.
Yeah.
So, because we're not part of that meeting, to listen and engage with you and, any concerns or even input, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll need to ask the point person is what kind of follow-up will we be getting from, once you have your meeting and this is on the agenda, will there be a further discussion and dialogue, and addressing concerns and questions and input and suggestions. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, you've already mentioned that Mayor Swever from the town of Blue Mountains has suggested you take it to that.
Yeah.
I would look to speak to Alar Swever about this, and I very interested to hear what his take on it, as well as the other members of that forum. It's an informal gathering. There's no statutory responsibility of the forum that we have right now. It is actually meant as a sharing opportunity and to bring large regional issues forward, to support the overall health of all of our communities. So there's a lot on the plate there with very little actual administrative and statutory responsibility, if any. So it's it's a work in progress as well. So, all right. Well, listen, I want to thank you both for joining us, and I appreciate your presentation, and I appreciate councilors who asked questions and participated. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
evening.
Thank you. Take care, Mike. Take care, Julie. Nice to have you.
Yes.
Bye.
All right, Madam Clerk, Clerk Helmke, I think we have another presentation. Would you be able to bring Porter and Councillor Rob Sampson from the town of Blue Mountains into the meeting?
Thank you, Mayor Measures. I just see Mr. Sampson coming in right now.
There he is. Hello, Councillor Sampson.
And I'm just
Evening, Mr. Mayor and Council.
And is June with us? Is she on board?
Yep, she was just promoted to a panelist, and she's just
there. She is. Thank you, Clerk Helmke. Appreciate that. All right. Hello, June. Would you like to join us with your? There you are. Hello, June. Nice to see you. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if she's hearing us. Could someone, June, could you let us know if you're hearing us? Maybe not.
It's showing in the background that Miss Porter is unmuted. So if she can hear us.
Does she have headphones plugged in that she's not aware of?
All right. Do you have headphones plugged in? We can't hear you. Welcome to 2022, people. I love this. Rob, have you been able to communicate with with June?
I just, Mr. Mayor, I just texted her and suggested there she is.
You can hear me okay, June?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. We can hear you now too. Thank you. All right. All right. Well, I'm really glad you're able to join our council meeting. You and Councillor Sampson are on the agenda, and we welcome you to bring forward your presentation. And I believe our clerk has the presentation, so we can go to that. Or if you'd like to just lead off, June, and tell us what you'd like to tell us about the Joint Physician Recruitment Committee.
So I was just going to lead off because I know you've been shared the white paper, although it's long. I'm hoping you at least read the executive summary. Is that first and foremost, sort of the need for physicians recruitment and retention across the region is one that is shared. And we all experience it firsthand. Those of us who are lucky to have one locally, and those who, like myself, drive 200 kilometers one way to see their family physician. So I've certainly welcomed the virtual care that's been afforded to us through COVID. I should really start by the 2016 population of Clearview. We're just about at that number of people, 14,000, just short of that actually don't have a physician in the region, which is a lot of people. And that is a number that is growing and has accelerated through COVID as people find that their companies are more inclined to let them work remotely. So the committee is very challenged to sort of come and meet that expectation of people. The committee, just to refresh you, has, Your Worship, Mayor Measures representing Clearview. We have Collingwood, Grey Highlands, and the Blue Mountains as members. It originally started as and remains an advisory committee of the town of Blue Mountains, which has served us well for a time, but as I will get to at the end, I think we have an opportunity to progress to a more highly functioning regional committee to meet the needs. So the physicians, we have an aging population as well as a growing youthful population and young families, and both of them are very high consumers of healthcare, typically, and will continue to be. We also have compounded 27% of the family physicians in our region, and that includes Clearview, are of retirement age. They're age 60 or over, and they carry larger patient rosters than the new graduates coming out aspire to have. So replacing them one-on-one is not an option anymore. And for every 500 new homes you build, you need a minimum of 1.5 physicians. You were very fortunate because I did all my best to recruit Dr. Pierce to the town of Blue Mountains. You were fortunate to have her join Clearview, but and fortunate enough to take over in the process of taking over the practice of a retiring physician. So, and I say that because she chose there because she wanted to be part of a family health team. But I'd like to think I played a little role because I did connect her partner, who is a registered nurse, with connections to seek employment in the area, because that's equally important, and socialize them to the area. But I'm very pleased she chose to stay. But she isn't taking new rostered patients. She's replacing a physician, which is good because she isn't in a negative, but we didn't gain a new physician in the region. And we haven't been very good at that over the last 10 years. And I'm saying it's problematic with knowing that 27% of physicians are aged over 60 and older. The other thing that we lose physicians to in the area is financial incentives. We've probably lost, I know, in the region about 5 to financial incentives elsewhere. One of them is one of the 5 new physicians joining Saugeen Shores over the next 4 years. One went to Wasaga Beach. Others thought financial incentives from elsewhere in Bruce County. So while some say financial incentives aren't everything it's cracked up to be, and they don't always want them, they have impacted us. And we are surrounded a bit like the hole in the donut. So parts of Simcoe County, which 83% of Simcoe's population lives in an area of high physician need. And the competition for family physicians is fierce. There are recruiters that work out of Aurelia, Midland, Penetang, and other areas east of you. And I know in the town of Blue Mountains area, we have dedicated recruitment resources that work from West Grey, Hanover, and to the west. And it is their job to recruit family physicians dedicated. Some are part-time, some are full-time. Other areas also, from a financial incentive, have lower real estate and rental costs that our areas don't suffer from. Our price of real estate has gone up, and in the past 2 years and coming into 2022, we are also going to see real estate continue to rise. So the financial incentive is not just finances that are given to, but equally the environment that they live in is easier, because a lot of family physicians come out of school with debt. The other thing why family physicians are important to us is walk-in clinics and emerge department visits in the absence of a family physician serves a need to a point, but they do not give the continuity and comprehensive care that patients need if they have young families, if they have chronic illnesses, or they need to have colon cancer screening. These things get missed, and they get missed because there isn't continuity of care with a single practitioner or a group of practitioners, and there isn't the building of what is their story, which is the electronic medical record, where people can look back and say, how is this going? I prescribed this medication. Is this working for you? So that is totally lost when it comes to walk-in care and emergency care as well. The other thing that's very important, and I would say is very important to Collingwood as it moves forward with this new build, is they can't function without family physicians. They need them in the emerge department. They serve anesthetic needs for elective and urgent surgery. They work as surgical assists. Just as a bit of an education, when an orthopedic surgeon does a hip replacement, they have a scrub nurse, a circulating nurse, but they also need a surgical assist, and that role is often filled by a family physician. So they play a vital role in day-to-day surgery. They also serve and participate in ambulatory care clinics. They have OB, like obstetrics and delivery of low-risk patients. They also work as hospitalists, and a hospitalist is a physician who works in a hospital and looks after patients who do not have family physicians. And hospitalists have been around for over 20 years because the problem has been around that long. They also serve long-term care beds. Every patient in a long-term care bed usually has a lot of medications. They're very fragile, they're complex, and they need to be served by them. In fact, one of the local long-term residence places in Collingwood recently hired a physician recruiter to recruit physicians to work for them because they're not getting access to physicians that they need. And I think our need for long-term care beds, we're underserviced in Ontario and certainly underserviced in this area. So that will only increase as well. While we're home to the Rural Ontario Medical Program, affectionately known as ROMP, and it's located in Collingwood. They have a high retention rate of 70%. We actually don't benefit a lot from that. As I said, we haven't really had any new physicians join us in our region that take on new rostered patients. So what we were proposing in the white paper, and something we've talked about since July of last year, is having a new governance structure, which will have other key players be involved, which would be from our local hospital, so Collingwood, our family health team, because that's where they primarily like to work in that type of a structure. And so they bring the other clinical lens, education lens, a different perspective. It supports their buy-in and demonstrates their need. And also a more independent committee would enable us to be more independently financially by raising money in the public domain. And I would say, and I have said publicly before, looking to developers, because the increase in the number of residential homes is part of the reason that we need more physicians. Physician recruitment isn't able to access to any portion of development charges to support that. And also industries that have employees in the area, because family physicians too, and I draw on my experience and background, play very key roles in return to work. And we have a staffing shortage in the area, and equally people who are injured or need to return to work. And they're also very important with mental health and ensuring patients have compliance with the medical treatment program that's been prescribed for them. And we all know, particularly in the last 2 years, the needs of mental health are particularly, couldn't be more apparent than they are now. So I'm really here to answer any questions you may have and promote the ask for support for a more regional committee to tackle this very shared issue we have. I'd like to ask before I close if Councillor Sampson, who's the Town of Blue Mountains representative on the committee, has anything to add.
Yeah, thanks, June. I'll make it quick. Thank you, Mayor Measures, for inviting us to your council meeting. The existing entity that June chairs is a committee of the Town of Blue Mountains Council, and it has as representatives individuals from the political sphere of the participating municipalities. It doesn't have any doctors on board. It doesn't have any representatives of hospitals. It doesn't have representatives of the other supportive healthcare facilities, and it should. And so the structure, while it was good to start off that way, I think we've developed and morphed with June's help to a structure that needs to be more inclusive of other individuals involved in healthcare delivery. And I think it would be more effective not being a committee of the Town of Blue Mountains Council, nor frankly being a committee of any of the municipal entities councils, but to be a standalone entity truly representing all of the stakeholders in the area, yes, which are political, but also the non-political stakeholders. And the proposal that June's put together, I think, not only demonstrates the need for physician support services in the area, but also the structure that would be best advised to support and develop that need. I'm less frankly concerned about losing physicians because of the money. I think we've got a lot in this region that attracts physicians. This is a great place to live and work and raise a family. And that's attractive to young physicians who are coming out of med school. It's also a place where you've got a lot of customers right out of the gate and you don't have to build a business. It's an area where there are some family health teams, which is where young physicians seem to want to go to work. Nobody really wants to come out of school, med school now, and hang up their own singular shingle. They want to be part of a family team with other health practitioners to support their service. And we've got in the region, broadly defined, at least 2 really good ones that could expand. And that will be a subject discussion, Mayor Measures, that we are going to have with the Minister of Health at Roma I guess it's not next week, but the week after.
Next week.
Yeah, right. So, you know, I congratulate June and you, Mayor Measures, for working with the committee to get it from its infancy stage or its birth stage to its infancy stage. But now we need to learn to crawl, and then we need to learn to walk and run. And I think the governance structure that would support that is something different than being a committee of let's say, Town of Blue Mountain Council. We just need to make that step, and I'm hopeful that your council would support that concept. I heard your last presentation. I think there needs to be a singular purpose. I would dare say here's one. You know, primary care and the shortage of that for all of our residents. It's not a municipal obligation, but it's something our residents all need, and we need to step into that void and somehow help to create that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for listening to us today.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sampson. I appreciate that. And to June, members of this council should know that June has been diligently working, representing this issue, and basically herding the politicians on this committee to come to understand that she does understand that we have a real crisis when it comes to physicians and the need for physicians. You know, early in this conversation as a committee, Councillor Sampson and I both shared that my physician is in my neighboring community, and Mr. Sampson's physician is also in a different community. So here we are, two examples of people who live in our own towns, who represent our own communities and our own municipalities, and yet our physician is not even in our own town. So that was sort of an enlightening moment to me when we joined this committee, and we've been working towards you know, getting some attention from the province of Ontario through the Ministry of Health. And so there is a great need. And as our communities grow, as our developments continue, people move here. As June pointed out, people want to work at home. I'm working at home right now. Looks like you're all working at home. The point is that, you know, there's more and more and more of that, people moving to our community to do that. So our population is growing, and the unrostered representatives who are needing support, medical support, are growing. That number continues to grow. So June, thank you very much for leading this committee to date. I know there's still yet work to be done. And so I would ask if there's any members of this committee have any, of our council, have any questions of these two able members of this committee to answer any questions. Members of Clearview Council, anybody got any questions? Yes, Mr. Patterson, go ahead.
Yes, thanks. Very timely presentation. My question will date me. Because I had some experience. When I was with the hospital board, Collingwood, with dealing with the Ministry of Health, and also I was we have our own Creemore Medical Center in Creemore, where we had done a survey. At that time, our communities were considered served by the ministry, and I didn't hear the ministry come up in any kind of a negative light or even suggest that they need to do more for us, but I'm sure in the background, you're much more aware than I right now that the province regulations in terms of what are the ratios of family physicians to our growing population. So can you give me a little bit of perspective where we are now in terms of any assistance in changing the regs to provide direct provincial support to increase the number of family physicians?
So what the province does is it designates areas of high physician need. Clearview is one. And that enables this community to add physicians, family physicians, to what they call a FO, which is a family health organization. Mm-hmm. Places like Collingwood that are not designated an area of high need are not allowed to have any more family physicians join their FO, which is a family health organization. They must work as single practitioners, as Rob was saying, with their own shingle. and bill on a fee-for-service basis, which is very unlucrative for them. The roster size, historically, family physicians would carry 2,000 to 3,000 patients. It is much more common today. So you look at Southeast Grey Community Health Center. Well, they have nurse practitioners there. Their family physicians carry around 650 patient roster, which is quite small. A lot of others carry from between 800 to 1,500. So I would say the retiring baby boomers and the ones before who are a bit older, the roster sizes are never going to come back in the thousands like they were. And which is why when they retire, it's very problematic because it's not a one-for-one replacement. The ministry is aware of that, but I wouldn't say there's been a lot of money forthcoming for that. And so communities as a whole, if you look at the white paper, there's quite a table of comparators of what different communities are doing. They're taking it upon themselves because they see the need for their residents. But I would say the more successful ones do have committees that are affiliated with a hospital or affiliated with a foundation. So they're able to raise money because municipal funds aren't always readily available. And in some cases across Ontario, acute hospitals actually contribute substantive amounts for the dedicated physician recruitment because they recognize they need family physicians as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can add to that, June, and Collingwood is deemed not to be underserviced, which is ludicrous because that, as his worship just mentioned, that's where my doctor lives. That's where half of the people on this side of the town of Blue Mountains doctors live. And so to say that it's an overserviced area or not underserviced area is a ludicrous statement. That healthcare does not follow municipal boundaries. It's irrelevant where my doctor is. He or she just needs to be near me. I don't care if they're in another county or town. I just want to know there's somebody at the other end, someone at the other end of the phone I can call. That's when a few minutes drive, not a few hours drive. And I think that's, believe it or not, a new concept in health. It seems that we started pounding on the minister at last Roma. We have a meeting this Roma, and we'll continue to pound. And I think the light has gone on, not only within the minister's office herself, but I think within the ministry's office and regionally as well. And hopefully there'll be some news that Collingwood is no longer, will be thrown in the basket of underserviced, and a doctor number be added to that category so that Collingwood can actually go and get new physicians. One, and two, we need to encourage the ministry, and we'll be doing that next week, to throw some more money at the pot to allow existing family health teams to expand. They may not want new ones to be created. I kind of get that part because of the administrative cost of having, 10 family health teams as opposed to 5. I get that. But I don't get the fact that it makes sense for my constituents and yours to drive to Toronto to get their doctor appointment. And I don't get some sense as to why that dollar can't flow up here where the patient is, as opposed to down there where the service provider is, So I think to your question, Councillor, we are seeing the ministry becoming more enlightened as we spend a lot of time enlightening them. We're getting there, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll show some progress in at least one or potentially two of the items that we need some help in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. June, that was excellent. And Rob, thank you very much for that. One more time, is there any members of council who have any questions? All right. If I could ask Rob and June just to stand by. I've got a 3-part motion that I'm going to read. I'll look for a mover and seconder, and then we'll have a vote on it or discussion on the specifics of the motion. And so we'll get to that right now. If you guys just stand by if you need any further questions. Council, there's a recommendation that's been provided, so I'm going to read it. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive the presentation and white paper from the Joint Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee, and item 2, that Council support the request from the committee to progress to a new governance structure, which will enable it to operate independently across the region, access funds to action and deliver tangible results while reporting to a regional group, such as the South Georgian Bay Mayors and CAOs Committee. And item 3, that the new governance structure be supported beyond an elected term to address the immediate known future requirements and future population growth. So that's the motion. I'll look for a mover and seconder. Mr. Patterson, Mr. Broderick. All right. Anybody with any questions on this or on the motion as presented? All right. I would like to state that the second part indicates that while reporting to a regional group such as the, as I said to the presenters that were on here earlier, is we have this group of the mayors and CAOs committee that do get together. It's a cooperative opportunity for councilors mayors and the CAOs to discuss regional issues. And I think this bringing this forward, I look forward to hearing from Mayor Sewever, Mayor Saunderson, what their opinions are of this, because I think that it will actually help solidify what that regional committee could actually do to serve all of our communities together. So I'm very supportive of that, but I am cognizant that this motion does say that it could be a different committee that's not yet created. So I just want to put my commentary in there for that. Anybody with any questions? All right, I will call the motion then. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. So June and Rob, I expect we'll be talking to you on Friday. We have a meeting with the mayors and CAOs committee. So thank you very much for joining us at our council meeting here tonight. And again, June, to you, great work on the white paper. I've read it now 3 times and I'm very, very pleased that it's I learned something new each time I read it. So it's got some very good detail and some very good thought that's been put into it. So good job.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
All right. All the best to our friends at Town of Blue Mountains here. Mr. Sampson, you have a good day. Great, Council. We're going to move on in our agenda to, where are we? Item 6, which is public meetings, which we have none. And as a note, if you recall, we have moved our public meetings, or planning public meetings, to a special council meeting, and there is not going to be any of those meetings in the month of January. So we don't have any planning public meetings in the month of January scheduled. All right, further approval of the council meeting minutes. So we have 2 meetings that were held. We need to approve those minutes. Council, be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approves the minutes of the following council meetings as presented: December 13, 2021, December 17, 2021, which was a special meeting. Before I call for a mover and seconder, can I go to the clerk and ask, would she want these to be separated, given that we have some members that have indicated they're not voting? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor Measures. If we have a mover and a seconder that was not at that special council meeting in December, as I know that we had limited representation from council at that one, then we can split it into 2. But if we do have a mover and seconder that was at both meetings, then we can proceed forward with the 2 together.
All right, thank you for the clarification. I will look for a mover and then a seconder. Mover, please. Deputy Mayor Burton, seconded by Broderick. All right, and both of those members were in attendance at both meetings. So I will call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. And we acknowledge those that did not vote as a result of their declared conflict. Thank you. All right, business arising from the minutes, if any. Was there anything that came up from that meeting? Those meetings? No? All right, and then we'll move on to communications from the mayor. Okay, 9.1, we did have an in-camera meeting. There is nothing to report at this time from this in-camera meeting. Item 9.2, NVCA board highlights from December. And item 3 is a request for a motion of support from the Collingwood General Marine Hospital in regards to an opportunity for an MRI machine for Collingwood. So is there anybody who would like to discuss any of these 2 items? Tom, do you have anything to say about the NVCA? I always like to go to you about that.
Well, I did report, because we had the meeting on the 10th, and I did report at the 13th that their budget was approved unanimously. Yeah. So that was good. And I did have an outstanding question for staff, and I'm very aware that we just went through the holiday season, so just wanted to get an update in terms of meeting with the NVA staff for the review of the performance monitoring and a number of the questions I think we talked about a couple of times.
All right, Mr. Ferguson.
Question I would put to John.
Yeah, John, have you got anything on that?
I did meet with Doug Hevener, and we discussed a few things. He did send over their plan, wanting us to go through it. I did start it. I haven't gone through it completely. And our goal is to follow up again with them. And I think they want to create an ongoing relationship with us to keep the lines of communication open, and we're open to that. I had a nice meeting with Doug.
Good. Progress.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. All right. Thank you, John. Anything further from any members?
Well,
all right, did you have something else? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom. Please go right ahead.
Well, are we going to respond to the request for the MRI letter for?
Yes, there's a recommendation here. I'm going to put that forward. If there's anybody have any questions about the letter, it did arrive a little late, as I mentioned earlier, and I hope members of council had an opportunity to review it. Basically, the General Marine Hospital is looking for support for adding an MRI to the facilities and the services that are available at the regional hospital. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I'd like to move the motion. That's the recommendation that's on the agenda 9.
Okay, how about I read it and then I'll call you up. Okay. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby support the Collingwood General Marine Hospital in their proposal submission to the Ontario Ministry of Health for funding for a magnetic resonance imaging unit to provide the ability of South Georgian Bay residents to access care close to home, and that the mayor be directed to provide a letter to the Collingwood General Marine Hospital outlining Clearview Township support. And I'll take the mover as Deputy Mayor. Councillor Patterson, seconder. Thank you. Any questions on this motion? All right. Yes, Councillor Patterson, go ahead.
Just a quick one. You might provide an update. I know that the hospital is in the process of the new build. I'm assuming that this is not contingent in any way on the decision from the ministry. In other words, without a build, would the hospital be moving forward with MRI? There would be some building recommendations.
The letter didn't indicate that there was any contingent decision in there, Tom, but I can tell you from the development committee work that I've been on, we're looking at all of the services that the hospital provide and looking at services, 70 years out as to what services could be available in a regional hospital such as the Collingwood Regional Hospital. So it's certainly something that would be very welcome today as well as in years to come.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Nothing further? Yes, Mr. McKechnie, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we're going to send this letter of support. I mean, it's easy to send a letter of support, but what's the dollar figure on this going to be? And when do we talk money on this? Would that be next year's budget? Because we're obviously going to be looking at some coin for this. So what's your take on that?
Mr. McKechnie, I have nothing further other than what I've read in the letter. I've not had any contacts with anybody since receiving it on Friday. Today was a pretty busy day with snow day and so on that I haven't spoken to anybody about this. So I tell you what, our letter of support would indicate that we would want to support the General Marine Hospital's indication that they want to add an MRI to their services. I don't think that would be making any commitment on our behalf, and we don't know what that commitment may be in the future.
Right. Okay, no,
It's-
that's fine. I just think I got looking at it and I think, well, it's a pretty general letter. I mean, it's easy to throw submit a letter of support, but until we find out exactly what the dollar figure is going to be, we could look foolish backing down from this if it's going to be too much. But anyway, I think I will support the letter of support.
Of course.
Because it's, we do need an MRI. I just wish that I had an idea from the hospital how much money they were going to be looking at. That's all. So anyway,
I hear you. I hear you very clearly. Absolutely. Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Measures, for you to Councillor and Councillor McKechnie. I believe at this point, the hospital is just looking for support from their surrounding municipalities to help leverage their business plan that they're submitting to the Ministry of Health at this moment. Not to say down the line that they wouldn't be looking for some maybe additional funding support, but this time it's just to support their business plan and their proposal with the ministry.
Yeah, that's what the little letter says. Yes, thank you. Councillor Patterson, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a standard practice of the ministry to have support from the municipalities for any capital projects like this. And yeah, there's a possibility that we would be captured, but probably through the county, like we did with the bill. And the reason I asked if it's tied to the or if the hospital is trying to tie it to the new build or renovation of the existing site is that it would be included in that kind of a capital expansion. But as the mayor answered, we don't really know for sure. So I don't see this as a lead to making direct funding requests in this case. And certainly we're in a good position to say that we're adding to the service capability of the hospital by putting the money away we are in the reserve fund.
That's right. That's good. That's a good answer. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. I'm prepared to call the motion since we've got a mover and seconder. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. We will get that done right away. All right, Council, one more recommendation here in regards to the communications from the mayor. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive the communications from the mayor for information. Mover and seconder, please. Mr. Broderick and Ms. Deneen. And I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, we are going on to item number 10, county reports for information. Deputy Mayor, yes, you go right ahead first. Take a drink of water.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And yeah, obviously we haven't had any meetings. Our first meeting of the new year is tomorrow. But I did want to mention that one of the things that will be passing tomorrow, which is back in 2018, under the age-friendly initiative update, which will be on back in 2018, we passed the motion to put $500,000 every year annually into the age-friendly initiative update, which is open for seniors, anybody over the age of 60, to do projects to improve mobility within their homes or where they're living. So it's a $50,000 grant that's open to any of them. So for example, if you're living in your house and you need to have, a ramp put in because you're wheelchair bound or things of that nature, anything dealing with mobility to make life easier as a senior, that type of thing. Applications are available. Actually, we have them. We can, either the mayor or I can get one to you, but I just want to make the public out there aware that there are grants for modifications that have to be done to your residence in order to make it more accessible. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The only thing I'd like to mention too about county reports is that we anticipate that there will be information about the cart exchange program, which council approved. County Council approved, and we anticipate that we will be hearing about the terms and details and dates and procedures, etc., very soon. I looked for it on the agenda of our council meeting coming tomorrow, and it wasn't there. So I expect that we will be hearing more about that anytime because I know that they've been working on it. The communications staff at the county have been busy trying to get that formulated, as well as the staff that are going to be actually handling the program. So look forward to that too. All right, and again, it's a big meeting tomorrow. Just so this council knows, the agenda for county council tomorrow is 1,550 pages long. It's a long agenda. There's a lot of material in the council agenda tomorrow. Nevertheless, okay, I'm going to move on then to council reports and community announcements. So we're at ward reports, and at this point, I'd like to hear from each of our councilors. So I'm going to go to Councillor Walker first, then Councillor Deneen, and then Broderick. Hello, Robert Walker. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Your worship, I have really nothing to report in the ward other than I am now triple vaxxed and no place to go because the government has put us back into a hold pattern. So it's basically hanging out in the house and running to the grocery store and to the post office about once every 3 days. So that's it. Just everybody keep healthy, support local business if you can, as best you can under the present conditions we're in. And just hopefully we can move through this and get to the better side in 2022.
Absolutely. Stay healthy, Councillor Walker. Appreciate that. Shop local. Councillor Deneen, you're next, then Broderick, then Patterson. Go ahead, fellas.
I'm going to echo Robert's sentiments exactly. I have not been anywhere except up homeschooling the grandkids again since Christmas. Happy New Year, everyone. Stay warm out there. Stay healthy. And yeah, hopefully we'll get out there again soon. I haven't even been grocery shopping, Robert. I've just been making do with what we've got. And honestly, I haven't even physically seen my mother since Christmas. So yeah, that's how bad it is around this place. So everybody take care and stay warm. Thanks.
Take care, Phyllis. Thank you for the update. Councillor Broderick, then Councillor Patterson, and then Lamers. Go ahead, John Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. December the 14th, I attended the Creemore BIA meeting, the 17th, the special council meeting, and on December the 21st, I attended the Clearview Library Board meeting. And yeah, I'm still just double vaxxed. Hopefully next week I'll have the booster. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John. Excellent. Councillor Patterson, and then Lamers, and then the Deputy Mayor. Hello, Tom.
Oh, just been a quiet month. I actually noticed quite a drop in the number of emails.
Yes.
It was amazing. I mean, I just wondered about it. I did do some stroll down Mill Street, picked up the usual seasonal concerns, nothing that I haven't talked about in the past. So I'll keep it short and say that I think we're hunkered down here. And I'm going to assume relatively happy living in Clearview and in Creemore. So it's a good feeling. But I almost felt guilty a little bit, not as being as busy as I usually am.
I understand. Catch up on your woodworking. Good
Yes.
for you. Good for you. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah.
Mr. Lamers, then the Deputy Mayor, and then Mr. McKechnie. Hi, John.
Hey, Your Worship. Happy New Year's, everyone. December 17th is special council meeting. And then an update for Winterama. We are up to date. We are up to date for Winterama, updating Winterama, switching to social media messaging to include photo submissions for contests for the beard growing contest, snow sculptures and poster
poster coloring contest. Starting January 10th until February 4th. Sunnydale Winterama is on Instagram and Facebook. And as of now, that's about all that's going on. There won't be no parade, no activities at the park, and no burning of the greens. And I am triple vaccinated.
Okay. All right, John, I'm sorry to hear about that, the changes to the Winterama.
Yes.
But it's a pretty significant event in our community, and probably one of the longest standing events that's still going on in our community. So that and the Great Northern Exhibition, boy, you know, those two events are the longest serving events in our community, that's for sure.
Yeah, hopefully we can get it back up and running again next year.
All
Full
right,
steam
well,
ahead.
please offer our thanks to the volunteers that work on that committee, okay? Thanks, John.
Right.
All right. Deputy Mayor and then Mr. McKechnie. Hello, Barry.
Yeah, not much to report. I was at that December 17th meeting. I just like to take this opportunity to thank all our frontline workers, people in the hospitals, our ambulance drivers, our firemen, for firefighters, for everything they're doing through this COVID, this third, fourth wave, whatever it is. But yeah, just stay safe, everybody. Hunker down, and we'll get through it.
You betcha. Thank you very much, Barry. Mr. McKechnie, Councillor McKechnie, how are you? Happy New Year.
Well, I think I'm a little bit more of a glass half full counselor than the rest of you. I'm triple vaccinated, and I'm getting on with life. Thank you very much. My wife and I, we're doing the best we can. We're out supporting businesses, and you know, we have plans. We're not hunkering down maybe as much as the rest, but anyway, to each their own. I'd like to congratulate. Nothing went on in Ward 2, but did I hear something last week that Councillor Broderick has been named the Grand Master or the Master or something of the Masonic Lodge? And if that's right, I'd like to extend my congratulations to him. I know that's quite an honor, and so congratulations, John. And and I think John wants to speak, but before he does, on a bit of a sad note, I note that one of the members of Ottawa, you know, lifelong member there, resident, has passed away, Kirk McKenzie. I knew the McKenzie family very well as I was growing up. There were 4 boys in the family, and I spent a lot of time there. And matter of fact, I was known as the 5th son of that family. So my condolences to the McKenzie family. So thank you very much. That's about it. I'd like to hear what Councillor Broderick has to say there.
Yeah, well, let's go back to that. We have Councillor Broderick is also known as Worshipful Master of the lodge in our community. So, John, why don't you tell us what else is happening in your other volunteer work?
On Saturday, I was installed as the president of the Manitou Shrine Club as well. I still am the worshipful master of Northern Light Lodge in Stayner. Wasn't supposed to go that way, but here we are.
Well, congratulations on behalf of the community. Good for you, John, and I'm very happy that you've accepted that position, and you'll do very well serving the interests of the community and the interests of Shrine. So, good job.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you, Councillor McKechnie, for bringing that up. I was going to mention that as well, so I think that's really significant. Good job. Yeah, let's see. I just have a couple things to say. First of all, I am triple vaccinated as well. My wife and I were able to get into a walk-in clinic back on the 18th of December. So that was a real, you know, surprise that we were able to get into a walk-in, and that's been a real positive thing. And I think that it's been helpful to try to get our defenses up as well during this crazy Omicron COVID version that we're dealing with right now. And I really hope that people remember to get out and support their local restaurants that are doing takeout. You know, those restaurant workers are having a real hard time during this whole thing. And so I would encourage the community to jump out, go out and do some takeout and visit your local restaurants and support your servers who are there doing that job and looking after us. So it's important to continue to support the local, and I know that we're all doing that in our own way, and I hope that we can continue to do that. I'd like to just go to Mr. Ferguson for a minute, John. This is a good spot to just mention early in the year when the announcements came from the province, we did have to make some changes. And I know that we've already done a press release on the recreational facilities that obviously the arenas are closed at this time. But I wondered if you could just comment about the administration center, that we do still have staff coming to work. We just are not opening the doors to the building, John. So maybe you could take a minute and just explain that again.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. That's correct. We're basically following the orders to keep as minimal people in the office as we can, but still conducting our work. So staff that have to go in are going in. They're letting the directors know and keeping the numbers down. With that said, our ability to respond at the front counter has been diminished somewhat. So we've closed walk-in times that were open from Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 10 until 2. We've closed that for now. However, if somebody needs to get in, they call the line, put through who do you want to talk to, and we'll set a meeting up or a phone conference or something of that nature to deal with the matter. We're asking the public to have patience with us. We understand that there will be needs that they have, and we'll try to get to them. And while we stay safe and follow all the COVID-19 protocols, with washing our hands, keeping our distance, and apparently this virus is creating quite a backlog in the ICUs in several provinces apparently, and they're still trying to figure out exactly what the impact will be. So we're cooperating with the Department of Health to make sure that we're doing what we can to protect our staff and protect the public, and we'll continue to do so.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Appreciate that. And I would encourage any members of the public that do wish to make an appointment or to speak to somebody to just call our office, 705-428-6230. That is the direct line. And you can leave a voicemail and it does get returned. It does get picked up. It does get monitored. And or you can leave a voicemail on whoever's extension you happen to be calling. So information is available on clearview.ca, of course, to go to the staff directory. You're looking to find somebody. You get their exact extension number, and the VRU as part of the phone system will help you connect with the person you're trying to find. So anyway, thank you, John, and I hope that you'll keep council up to date as we get through this and to continue to provide the services for our community. Yes, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. And our staff are all encouraged to try to get back to responses as soon as possible. We often understand that people sometimes don't like being prompted through the phone system, but bear with us, leave a message, and a staff person will get back to you.
All right, there you heard it. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Thank you, members of council. All right, we're going to move on to section 12 of our agenda. So this is on page 4, for those that are keeping track. Department reports and bylaws, community services, CS 001 2022, the Committee of Adjustment reports from December 2021. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report CS 001 2022, the Committee of Adjustment reports from December 2021 for information. Mover and seconder on the floor, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Lamers, any questions on this report? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. All right. Let me go to Parks, Culture, and Recreation, PCR 001 2021. Mr. Vachon's join us. Hello, Terry. Let's go to this motion. It's about Mad River capital improvements. Recommendation be it resolved. The Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report PCR 001 2022. Mad River Park capital improvements dated January 10, 2022. And item 2, that council approve the proposed capital improvements to the Mad River Park as outlined in this report. Oh, Amanda Murray's there too. Hello, Amanda. Mover and seconder, please, to get this on the floor. Broderick, seconded. Walker, thank you. And hello, Amanda. Hello, Terry. Terry, would you like to speak to your report? Is there anything you'd like to add?
Sure, thank you, Your Worship, and nice to see you in council again. Happy New Year to you all, 2022. Seems like it's been a while since we've had a council meeting, to be honest. And
yeah,
we're happy to be back. Yeah, so we're looking at wanting to do some finally getting some improvements done to Mad River down there in Creemore. But without further ado, I'd like to ask Ms. Murray to present her report, and her and I will be available for any questions that council may have.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Terry, and happy New Year to you too. Hello, Amanda Murray. How you doing?
Hello, thank you very much, Mayor Measures. Good evening, members of council, and thank you, Terry, for that introduction. The report is fairly straightforward, pretty self-explanatory, but I do just want to highlight one of the reasons that we are coming to council is just to let everybody know of the amount of collaborations and partnerships that the PCR department has been working on. We also want to recognize that the Creemore Springs Brewery had decided in 2020 to reallocate their funding contribution from the Small Halls Festival towards supporting any capital improvements at the Mad River Park, recognizing the longstanding involvement that they had at that park, but also the significance of Mad River within the village of Creemore. As you can see in my report, that during those discussions, one of the founding members, Mr. John Wiggins, had passed away. So then there is also a section in here about how we will be recognizing Mr. Wiggins through a substantial honor in consultation with his family as well as the brewery. I do also just want to add that the Tree Society of Creemore also approached our department to talk about a potential trail network that would extend from Mill Street along Langtree Street. And we've worked with the Public Works Department to make sure that we can build a trail or construct a trail near that water main. And obviously we would take those steps necessary to ensure that we would always be able to have Public Works access that water main. And the last key component to this report is just to further highlight that the township will be seeking funding through the County of Simcoe using a program called Trails Connecting Communities, and that provides up to $30,000 funding or 50% for trails and pathways that connect. They're small scale projects, but that they can connect key components within our township. We've been very successful in the past with having that program, so I don't anticipate any problems moving forward. So again, Terry and I are available to answer any questions, and this is more of just an information report and to ensure that council's aware of the capital improvements at Mad River Park in downtown Creemore.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Amanda. Members of council, do you have any questions to our staff about this report? Nobody has any questions? I have one comment, if I can, to Terry and Amanda. One of the things that I observed about the park, a couple of the larger events that have been held there, access to electricity is a little bit of a challenge there. So hopefully during this design work, we can develop a little bit better power access so that there is some boxes, I guess, you know, in the plan that help us to provide some additional power down there. Is that part of the plan, Terry? And you're nodding your head. I guess it is.
Yes.
Okay.
It is, Your Worship. We're a little bit fortunate because there is a little bit of existing power, but then an upgrade has to be done to the panel. It's a little bit of an older panel with older plugs, GFI plugs. So we need to do a bit of an upgrade. The good news is that the power is actually at that pole. So, but yes, upgrades for the hydro is definitely part of the plan.
You bet. Okay. Look forward to it. It's great to see that park be very busy. I was there this past summer actually, and walked back to the river and was surprised to find a whole family. It was right there, right picnicking and so on. It was a nice little spot. So it's a great park. All right. If there's nothing further from members of council, I'm prepared to go. Thank you, staff. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Good work. Nice to see you guys. Okay, Public Works Department. And this is a municipal drinking water inspection report. This is something we get sort of semi-annually, and it's great to receive this. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive PW 001-2022. It's the summary of the 2021 municipal, what is it, MECP drinking water inspection reports for information. There we go. Stephanie Shell is here. Can I have a mover and seconder on that? Mr. Broderick, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Hello, Steph. Haven't seen you in a long time. Nice to see you.
Hi, thank you very much, Your Worship. Good evening, members of council. So yes, my report tonight, just want to let you know that every year we go through these inspections from the ministry. It's part of their duties. So they perform a physical inspection of the system, ensuring that all the components are installed properly, as well as in accordance with the licenses and the permit for the system. And then they also provide us with a comprehensive review of the required documentation and sampling results and that sort of items that they look at. From this, a report and summary rating record are produced, and my report tonight is to inform you of the results of the inspections that were completed in 2021. I can just make a note of a few items that were from this. This year, Clearview was assigned a new inspector from the Barrie District Office of the MECP. This is a change that happens every few years. They'll change it up and give us a new inspector. Due to Clearview's good track record in previous inspections, all of the inspections this year were of the focus variety, whereby a slightly more limited scope of items are examined while still maintaining the thoroughness that's required by the Safe Drinking Water Act. 5 out of the 6 physical inspections were unannounced. This is something that is also done by the ministry on a regular basis, usually in a 3-year cycle, so that they'll just say we're coming this day, but don't tell us which facility that they're going to. So just to kind of make sure that that's part of their duties. The inspections were conducted in 4 visits that took place between July and October, and it took about 5 months from the time of the first inspection until we received the final report and subsequent rating record information. So the ministry updated their software system that they used to generate the reports with this year, so that the reports themselves are a little bit different in a format of them. So. But overall, I'm really happy to share with you that all 6 of the Clearview owned and operated drinking water systems received a score of 100%. So we're happy to present this.
Excellent work. Thank you very much, Steph. That's excellent work. Mike Ron is with us as well. Nice to see you, Mike. Haven't seen you in the new year. And I see the deputy mayor has his card up. Go ahead, Barry.
I just want to say congratulations, great work to Mike Ron and Stephanie and your whole team. And you do us proud. Cheers.
Indeed, indeed. Any questions to the report? Nothing? All right. I'll just give a comment to Mike Ron. Mike, you know, it was a few years ago that you brought this forward to council to hire a compliance officer. And it's interesting to note that if you go back and look at the previous reports, the results of having a compliance officer indicate that our reports are now in excellent shape. So it's indeed perfect that we hired somebody, and even better that we got somebody who's doing such a great job. So there you go. So good job, Mike and Steph. Nice to have you guys here. Members of council, nothing further. You've got the motion in front of you, and I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you for waiting. Good to have you guys here. All right, council, we're moving on to page 5, finance. We have the interim tax bylaw, the bylaw number 2201. So this is the interim tax bylaw. I see Kelly McDonald is with us, our treasurer. Nice to see you, Kelly. Recommendation, be it resolved, the council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receives the 2022 interim tax bylaw report for information, and item 2, approve the 2022 interim tax bylaw 22-01. Mover and seconder, Mr. Broderick, Mr. Lamers, thank you. And Kelly, just to explain briefly that we have an interim tax bylaw to enable the community to continue to move forward. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Worship. It allows us to bill the taxes before the final tax rate has been set. So the bills going out for the interim will be 50% of 2021's total property taxes.
All right. If there are any questions to Kelly of her report and her ask? No? All right. That was simple. Thank you very much, Kelly. I will go to the council then. We have a mover and seconder on the motion. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Also in finance, the development charges pamphlet for 2022. Recommendation be it resolved that council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive the 2022 Development Charges Pamphlet Report for information. Can I have a mover and seconder on that? Mr. Broderick, Mr. Walker. Mr. Broderick, Mr. Walker, thank you. Any questions on the report, the pamphlet? It's always good to get it updated and get it published and get it available for handout at the counter. Since we're not having the counter open, you can get it online. Let's approve it. How's that? No questions? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, another finance item is insurance renewal for 2022. Okay, recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive the 2022 insurance renewal report for information. And item 2, approves the insurance and risk management renewal proposal from Marsh Canada Limited in the amount of $544,679 plus PST. And so I'll look for a mover and a seconder, and I think Kelly has something to say on this. Mover, Mr. Broderick. Seconder, Deneen, Councillor Deneen. Thank you. Hello, Kelly. First thing I'd like to say, Kelly, is Marsh Canada Limited is the new company. And it's not the name that I've normally been associated with when we're doing this. So I'm glad to see that that was clarified in your report. So thank you, Kelly. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, JLT has now become sort of a unit of Marsh, which is a much larger facility. I'm hoping that's why we're getting, I don't want to say the lower increases, but lower increases than other municipalities are experiencing. We had a 15% last year, and now this year is 13%. I'm hoping that levels off. I don't know how much longer municipalities can take increases like this. But as I say, ours are pretty stable versus some of the other municipalities in the area.
All right. Does anybody or any members of council have any questions to Kelly on her report in regards to this insurance renewal? Nobody has any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Kelly. I always appreciate you filling out this information for us. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that motion carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to Legislative Services and Clerks Department. Good time at our first council meeting to talk about the municipal election. LS 001 2022 Municipal Election Use of Corporate Resources Policy. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report LS 001 2022, the Municipal Election Use of Corporate Resources Policy, dated January 10, 2022. And item 2, that council approve the use of corporate resources policy for municipal elections as presented in Schedule A to this report. Okay, I'll need a mover and seconder. Mr. Lamers, Ms. Deneen, Mr. Lamers and Councillor Deneen, and where did our clerk go? Clerk, there she is. Hi, Clerk Kelly. Do you have anything you'd like to add to this comments on this report?
Thank you, Mayor Measures, for you to the rest of council. So this policy is usually signaling that we are in election years. So welcome to 2022. It's a very similar policy that was approved for the 2018 municipal election. Municipalities are great in that we share resources, and as we move on to the next election term, we make any updates and we share those updates with each other. I've highlighted the updates in my report. The key parts is that we've just clarified what corporate resources are and nomination period, because those have changed for this election for 2022. Also, we've added third-party advertisers. They were included in 2018, but they weren't explicitly written down, but they are included.
All right, thank you very much, Clerk Kelmke. Any questions from members of council? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Clerk Kelmke. Council, you've heard the motion, and I've got a mover and seconder, so I'll prepare to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, also from the Legislative Services Clerks Department, something that our Deputy Mayor has been working on, the Community Assistance Grants recommendation. So recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive LS 002 2022. It's the 2022 Community Assistance Grants report for information, and that the 2022 Community Assistance Grants be approved as presented. Okay, a mover and seconder on this, Deneen and Broderick. And maybe I can go right to the Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor, I know you worked on this report. Can you give us any commentary from this report that thinks is worthy to bring up?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, can't see you.
Okay, for some reason, yeah, something I just bear with.
Okay.
Sorry, for some reason my video clicked out. Anyways, okay, welcome to 2022 in technology.
Yeah.
I'm using a new computer.
Oh, good.
Because we had a problem with my old one. So, yeah, no, all went well. I actually, it was our deputy clerk and I reviewed this and went over it thoroughly, and you know, our recommendations are there. We're happy that there's still sufficient funds left in the reserve, so that if things come up, especially with COVID and everything coming on, that it leaves monies there to so we don't exhaust everything, so we're able to contribute to other organizations as we get through the year.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Measures. I'd like to thank you for bringing this up in our agenda prep meeting. As Council may remember, during one of the budget workshops, there was a resolution to commit $2,000 to replace the flagpole at the Singhampton Cenotaph. This isn't included in this report, but that money is earmarked for once the budget is approved by Council.
Very good.
She is absolutely correct. Yes, we did. I believe I might have even moved that motion or seconded. I think it was Councillor McKechnie. But anyways,
Councillor
yes.
McKechnie, I think that's right. Yes. Thank you very much for that, Clerk and Deputy Mayor. And anybody with any questions then to the report? All right. Thank you very much for your work on that. Okay, Council, you've got a motion in front of you with the mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okie dokie. Guys, we're moving on to bylaws. There's only one bylaw, which is the first bylaw of the year. Bylaw number 22-01. This is the interim tax levy bylaw. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 21-01, being a bylaw to levy an interim tax for the year 2022, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on this 10th day of January 2022. So can I have a mover and seconder on the bylaw, please? Mr. Broderick, Mr. Lamers. Any questions? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries. All right. Council, notices of motion, new business. Nothing? I don't think so. Yeah. And we have our bylaw to confirm the proceedings of our council meeting next. So recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 22-02, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the January 10, 2022 council meetings, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on this 10th day of January 2022. And I have a mover and seconder on the confirmatory ballot. Deneen and Mr. McKechnie. Thank you. And I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. Confirmatory bylaw carries. Council, we have the motion to adjourn unless there's anything further. Just want to remind people and each councillor, we will be meeting in 1 week's time. We have 2 meetings sort of back to back, and then we do have a budget meeting on the Wednesday, the 19th as well. So those are the scheduled meetings. And then I believe there's some members that may be participating in the virtual Roma conferences that are coming up as well. So that is coming up this month as well. All right. Council, I'll go to the motion to adjourn. Recommendation be it resolved that council meeting be adjourned, and the time is 7:27 p.m. Councillor McKechnie, Councillor Deneen. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Good. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you all again. Please stay safe and stay warm. Boy, that snow is really something out there tonight. All the best.